We got a new update around Billy Donovan potentially leaving the Chicago Bulls for the head coaching position with the Kentucky Wildcats. We'll be getting into that here in a second. But first on today's show, I wanted to address possibly the worst play in NBA history that went down last night, and I'm starting to laugh about it. And it's probably you guys have already seen the clip before, but it was Torrey Craig when the Bulls were down 9 points in the second quarter. He gets a steal, and Torrey Craig decides to throw it off the backboard for a self-alley-oop. And then Andre Drummond thought that lob was for him. And then, obviously, disaster struck for the Chicago Bulls. I mean, look at Torrey Craig's face in this photo. He is in a shell-shock form right now because he couldn't believe that Drummond went up behind him and tried to get the self-lob. I'll get into more thoughts on this in a second, but I don't blame Drummond one bit. This is all on Torrey Craig. But I did want to kick it to what Torrey Craig had to say about the incident after the game. And he said, I just wanted to create some excitement and try to give us the edge. Try to create some momentum for us. Obviously, I didn't know Drum was going to jump after it with me. And then he carried on to say, so it was a miscommunication or a misinterpretation or whatever. At the end of the day, I've just got to dunk the ball or lay it up, so I'll take blame for that. And listen, if I was the Bulls, front office, or if I was running the Chicago Bulls, if I was their head coach, I would have cut Torrey Craig literally the next day. I might have cut him after the game yesterday because in the situation the Bulls were in, you were down 9 points in a big-time game, whether it depends if you were going to get home court advantage for that 9-10 play-in game, and Torrey Craig thinks he's going to go off the backboard into a self-lob to bring momentum and excitement to the team. I just think it was an absolute joke. I thought it was one of the worst plays in NBA history, and it just perfectly sums up the Chicago Bulls season. They were making a comeback on the Knicks. They were just about to kind of break through that door and make it an actual true competitive game, which they did in the second half. But then Torrey Craig decides to go for the clip on Instagram. He tries to get on House of Highlights and throws himself a lob off the backboard. I just think it kind of speaks to the culture that is within the Chicago Bulls team. But hey, Torrey Craig decided, to take that route. But I just can't believe he did it. And we'll get to the Billy Donovan kind of update here in a second, as it turns out that maybe Kentucky has not reached out to him. But first, guys, I want to make sure you guys are subscribed here to the channel. We're going to be going live for the Bulls play-in game versus the Atlanta Hawks either next Tuesday or Wednesday. So make sure you guys do hit that sub button and lock us in as your go-to Bulls YouTube channel as the Chicago Bulls are taking on the Atlanta Hawks. So let's get to the update around Billy Donovan and the Kentucky head coaching job. So this was tweeted out before the game yesterday when Billy Donovan was talking to reporters before the Knicks-Bulls matchup, and Jon Rothstein tweeted this. He said, Billy Donovan tells reporters prior to tonight's Bulls-Knicks game that he has not been contacted by Kentucky, and he's committed to being in Chicago. So it turns out the Wildcats have not reached out to the Bulls head coach as it stands right now. But I also think this could be complete smoke from Billy Donovan. I think he was just kind of taking the politically correct answer and just saying, oh, I'm all focused on, the Chicago Bulls and, I have no interest in the Kentucky coaching job. But, I do definitely think that there is a way after the season ends that it's immediately that Billy Donovan is out the door and he is flying to Lexington to take that coaching job. Even though they haven't reached out to him yet, I still think it's a possibility because I'm just reading body language when it comes to Billy D right now. He seems like he is absolutely done with this Bulls team. And, a clip went sort of semi-viral on Twitter after the Torrey Craig dunk. It was Billy Donovan. He was just scratching his head. His eyes looked drained. He just looked fed up with this Bulls team. And frankly, I don't necessarily blame him for that. But if I'm just reading body language, it kind of seems like he may have one foot out the door. Again, this is all speculation, but I could definitely see Billy D being done with Chicago. And he actually had a pretty funny quote talking about Torrey Craig, him going for one of the worst plays in NBA history. But this is what he had to say. He says, to me, it was just really disappointing. You're down by 9. There were a lot of self-induced things that I thought contributed to. Not only that play, but other plays that weren't as loud as that. But that play was really disappointing. And my sort of problem with Torrey Craig even attempting this play is that if Tom Thibodeau, or a coach similar to Tom Thibodeau that knows how to instill culture in a basketball team, this wouldn't even have happened. And that's kind of my biggest gripe with Billy Donovan. Yeah, I think he understands the X's and O's. I think he understands the game of basketball better than any of us ever will. But in terms of installing a culture, installing kind of a precedent in how you want to run your basketball team, the Bulls have none of that. Like, if you think about what is the Bulls' identity, what are they good at? You can't really pinpoint one thing. And for a team that I think has, the personnel to be one of the more tough, defensive-minded teams in the NBA, the Bulls don't play like that. You got Caruso, you got Ayo DeSumo, even a guy like Torrey Craig, Patrick Williams, like those long 3-and-D athletes. Like, you have the potential to be one of the more tougher and physically opposing teams. The Bulls aren't that at all. But I will say this. I don't think Billy Donovan is the biggest problem with this basketball team. If I had to call it right now, or if I had to kind of go a little pie chart of blame, I think almost 65 or 70% of it is just on roster construction. So I don't think Billy Donovan, like if the Bulls would fire him or would move off him, like it would automatically just fix all the issues with this basketball team. I think he's just a small piece of the pie in terms of what has gone wrong with the Chicago Bulls this season. But, Billy Donovan, I don't think he's been great, but, he also hasn't been terrible. I don't think this is all on him. So, I kind of want to give him, not really credit there, but just don't put all the blame on the head coach, because in terms of the NBA, I don't really think coaching moves the needle as much as it does in, obviously, the NFL. When you got guys calling in the plays after every single play, basketball obviously being a more free-flowing sport, so the players have a lot more impact. So I don't necessarily think Billy D is the biggest problem with this basketball team, but maybe you guys disagree, and I want to get you guys involved on today's video. Would you fire Billy Donovan? Are you fed up with him being the head coach for the Chicago Bulls? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Give me a Y for yes or an N for no if you would fire the Bulls head coach. Coming up in just a second, we do have an Andre Drummond injury update coming in from Coby White. He talked about it after the game, because after the Bulls after Torrey Craig went for the self-lob, Drummond necessarily sprained his ankle literally the play after. So we got an update on that here in just a second. But first, I want to tell you guys about today's sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. If you guys download the Prize Picks app, and when you're making your first deposit, if you plug in promo code CLNS, we're going to match it up to $100. But what is Prize Picks? Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. And how do you play? All you do is you pick 2 or more players, choose more or less on their projected stat types, and start seeing the cash roll in today. Even though the NFL season is not here anymore, they got countless of other options to make plays and to make lineups, such as the Masters, NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs once that gets underway. There is no shortage of plays you can make. And hey, even with the Masters starting up tomorrow, I'm taking this Prize Picks lineup for Phil Mickelson and Victor Hovland. I'm going on less 2.5 birdies for Phil, and I'm going to ride the hot hand in Victor Hovland. I'm going to go more than 3.5 birdies or better. But whether you guys want to fade my picks or ride my picks, make sure you guys do it at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app, enter promo code CLNS when you're making your first deposit, and we are going to match it up to $100. Prize Picks is my favorite app on my phone. I use it for every single game I watch, and trust me, you guys will too. Even if a game is a blowout or it just doesn't have a lot of juice, when you make a Prize Picks lineup, it adds that extra fun, adds that extra excitement. So make sure you guys download the app, Prize Picks, and use promo code CLNS when you're making your first deposit, and we are going to match it up to $100. It's simple. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. It is Prize Picks. All right, let's talk about Andre Drummond to close out today's show, because he had a nasty ankle injury following that, terrible play by Torrey Craig and, himself, Andre Drummond. But Coby White had a pretty cool quote about just the impact that Andre Drummond brings to the basketball court, and just obviously, how much it hurt to lose him. And this is what he had to say. He said, "It hurt. I was right there when it happened. He jumped for a rebound. He jumped high and came down on a dude's foot. And that's a big dude. All of that weight coming down on a rolled ankle, that's a big guy. So I'm praying for him to have a speedy recovery. He's a big part of our team. We need him." And Coby White's 100% right. The Bulls definitely do need Andre Drummond if they have any aspirations to make the playoffs and take on the Boston Celtics in round 1. Because a guy like Drum, what he's able to do on the offensive and defensive glass, it just overall makes an impact on the game of basketball. And they need him for this play-in tournament. You got the Atlanta Hawks in that first game, but let's just say you get matched up with Philly. You get matched up with Miami. You're going to need some more better players, or just more bigger players in that front court to help match the size of the Heat and the Sixers. And I think Drummond's been great this season. I mean, in only playing 17 minutes a game, which I think is a joke. I think he should be playing a whole lot more than that. But he's putting up 9 rebounds a night, 8.4 points. And yes, he's not the most elite defender in terms of a front court player in the NBA, but still averaging 1.4 stocks per game. And he shoots incredibly efficient on those push shots and around the rim, shooting at 55.6%. And I would be all in on the Chicago Bulls bringing him back this summer. I think if I had to choose it, I would want Andre Drummond starting at the 5 next season, and you move off a guy like Nikola Vucevic, who, even though Vuce was pretty damn good against the Knicks last night, it's just the little things with him. He just doesn't necessarily, impact the game of basketball in a winning way. It just always seems like Vuce is just always a step behind defensively, and he doesn't really kind of physically impose himself, which I would like him to on the glass or obviously on the defensive side of the floor. He's got a great push shot. He's got great touch around the rim. But I would rather go a archetype of an Andre Drummond, where it's a lot more grit and grind, where he's attacking the glass, he's getting extra possession. So hopefully this ankle injury is not too serious for Drum, and the Bulls can get him back for the in-season tournament that is starting either next Tuesday or Wednesday, because, hey, no doubt the Bulls are going to need him just to get those extra possessions and just dominate the glass like he's done in the past. But let's show Andre Drummond some love. Let's show the big fella our support down in the comment section. Type his jersey number. Type those threes down below in the chat. Maybe his family, maybe a couple of his buddies are watching today's show, and they go down in the comments and just see it flooded with threes. I'm sure that'll make their day. But, hey, type 3 to show Drummond some love. As I said at the top of the show, we will be going live for the play-in tournament next Tuesday or Wednesday. So make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button. Lock us in as your go-to Chicago Bulls YouTube channel. I'm excited for the game. It's going to be against the Atlanta Hawks, and obviously Ayo Dosunmu and Caruso have done a number on Trae Young in their career. So expect the Bulls to win. Then it's going to come down to if the Bulls can shock the world and either beat Philly, Miami, or Indiana and somehow sneak into the playoffs. Make sure you guys are subscribed, lock us in, and as always, go Bulls.